Well, it's been an April to forget for meme coins and DeFi and cryptos. But I think April probably fared relatively well for meme coins like Dogecoin and Shiba Inu, but marked big losses for decentralized finance tokens like Thorchain and others, according to Kraken. And considering Bitcoin's 17% loss as a benchmark, I think the broader DeFi sector lost on average 34%, closely followed by tokens of layer one or so-called base blockchains at 33%. So to really catch up on what's going on in the world of cryptos and this broad sell-off, I'm joined now by Sean Sanders, CEO and co-founder of Revix. Sean, always good to have you on the show. It's been a tough April and a start to May in the world of cryptos. What do you see as driving this most recent pullback?
Hey, Michael, thanks very much for having me again. Wow, I guess the big sort of driver at the moment seems to be that inflation. Everyone seems to be talking about it. Everyone seems to be very scared of it. And I guess you are seeing sort of record inflation, certainly over the last decade or so, I guess well past a decade across all sort of developed markets. And you know what happens with high inflation, high interest rates come about. We just saw the Fed raise interest rates by 0.5%. And they've obviously sort of mapped out what the interest rate hikes look like in the future. And that's resulting in a rather big sell-off across all markets, really. I mean, you mentioned this briefly just before we started speaking. The only thing that seems to be going up right now is the dollar. And maybe a little bit of gold trending sideways. So crypto has been caught in sort of this downward move across all risky assets. I mean, even bonds, right? Bonds were meant to be this really safe investment category, and bonds have been absolutely smashed this year. I think it's been a challenging period, especially as an investor.
Yeah, if you're a broker, you're just on the phone saying sell everything, and that's the way it's felt. Inflation is a major concern, obviously running at multi-decade highs in the US and the UK this week. Bank of England also raising rates. They reckon inflation is going to top out at 10.2%. It makes South Africa feel relatively benign and safe because we're still at the top end of our 3 to 6% band. But considering this, are there any areas in the crypto market that excite you, considering the volatility that we've seen of late and the big sell-off?
I suppose with a sell-off comes all this opportunity, right? I mean, that is the opportunity now that sectors are at a discount. If you're looking at them over the longer term and you really think that they're going to grow and improve. If you look at, let's say, more of a traditional market, let's say like medical cannabis, or if you said it's a biotech, esports, even just the tech sector, right? I mean, the NASDAQ, it's seen a massive sell-off over the last while. If you're a longer term investor, this could be a great entry point. I wouldn't run out to this market right now and, put all your money into it. I would definitely sort of look at dollar cost averaging in over time, perhaps over the next few quarters. But yeah, I think this is actually a really interesting sort of opportunity to kind of get into the space. If you never got involved with crypto, gosh, you've seen the crypto market down about 50% from all-time highs. In some cases, even more than that with certain coins. And that's the opportunity that you've got to look at. In particular, I suppose, and I'll be saying this no matter what happens in the market, the DeFi sector is just the most fascinating and the most exciting. There's a debate happening at the moment on whether or not crypto is going to be a big part of the future of finance. And that's a valid point. I mean, who knows if crypto actually will be, but I do see that finance is going to be more digital. I don't think anyone's going to be disputing that. And it's going to be more automated, right? So you're going to have peer-to-peer transactions. You're going to remove intermediaries over the long term. Every system does that. And what you're seeing in the DeFi space, while it is in the blockchain space, I mean, you are seeing sort of this automation and this decentralized sort of peer-to-peer finance emerge. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's so exciting to see what's going on in the space. I was a big DeFi bear to start with, believe it or not. I thought it was cool, don't get me wrong, but I didn't really grasp sort of the gravitas of what was going on and sort of just the brain drain as well happening from sort of more traditional sectors, like like the traditional investment world, going into sort of this DeFi market. And that's what's excited me the most.
What switched you then? Because I speak to a lot of kind of grey shoe, typical corporate investment banker types, and they are still fairly bearish, but they would be because it's a direct threat to their business model on DeFi. What changed your view?
I think two separate events, quite notable events. Number one, I was looking at remitting funds. And this actually wasn't when I was in South Africa, it was when I was offshore. And I mean, from a developed market, this was in the UK, to send money to another market cost me 0.3%. In South Africa, that's a lot higher. In South Africa, you're looking at north of 1%, generally speaking, for the average person to make a payment to another country. So that's converting to a foreign currency, selling that out, generally, depositing that into a foreign bank account. And that's just a payment, right? That should be as easy as sending an email. And somehow we haven't yet got that down. And it was that sort of moment where I was like, wow, no, this payments infrastructure space. And I mean, you understand why. There's a lot of intermediaries involved in all the rest, but all of a sudden you go, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here. Over the long term, I mean, the payments prices, I guess the bid-ask spreads and all the rest, that's going to be, removed significantly. I mean, payments are going to become a lot more seamless. So that was the first point where I was like, okay, I get this crypto thing. I understand the requirement to have sort of global internet money. Secondly, I think it was sort of the likes of Compound and Aave that got me quite excited, including, I suppose, Uniswap. So Compound and Aave are essentially decentralized money markets. I mean, you can, if you had, let's say, a really big Bitcoin position, you've held on for, say, the last 6 or 7 years, you've made a ton of money. Instead of you saying, hell, I'm going to sell out of Bitcoin right now and take this massive tax gain, what I'd rather do is lend my Bitcoin on Aave, and then in return, take some US dollars that I could then use to live my life and all the rest. And in order to do, well, I guess doing that, you're sort of doing this through a decentralized platform. You're paying some interest on the dollars you're borrowing. You're earning some interest on the Bitcoin that you're lending to the platform without the requirement for any intermediary whatsoever. And that really just flicked a switch where I was like, wow, that's exciting. And then I think the sort of other part of that was Uniswap. All of a sudden, I mean, we've all sort of engaged with brokers and we've dealt with the JSE or the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, the idea of these old school exchanges where you meet people in person, I mean, that's kind of gone away now. You do trading through various platforms, but the idea of having sort of this central system where all the trading occurs, being like the New York Stock Exchange or the JSE, to sort of see that uprooted and challenged by the likes of Uniswap, right? This digital platform that is, again, decentralized, simply software that facilitates everything that you see on the New York Stock Exchange or the JSE. I mean, that's fascinating. And again, that sort of got me really excited about the space as well.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Anything that's using smart contracts the way DeFi does instead of third parties to provide these services, trading, lending, borrowing, whatever it is going to be more efficient. It's going to remove costs out of the system because every third party or intermediary has to have, they've got to be paid. And I think that's really what excites me about DeFi. And why I mentioned that DeFi was down so much, because I think it's a great opportunity if you understand, the fundamental underlying drivers of DeFi into the future. Now, you certainly do, and you've been developing a lot of innovation inside Revix. It seems like every time I chat to you, you guys are rolling out a new product or a new innovation. The latest one is your savings vaults that you're launching. Just tell us a little bit more about these.
Yeah, so our savings vaults actually build on what I spoke about, or I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, which is the ability to lend out cryptocurrency and earn interest for doing that. Now, what we've done is essentially we've either utilized protocols, so the likes of Compound or Aave, or we've utilized third-party providers that want to borrow USDC from us. And in return, we're able to offer customers a significantly higher interest rate than what they earn at their bank. So you're not going to be earning 50 to 100% through the savings vault every single year. It's a lower risk sort of crypto investment product. It's actually more of a crypto savings product. And what you can really do on the Revix platform is you can then buy USDC, put it inside our savings vault, and you can earn a yield of 12%. In the USD savings vault. So essentially that's 12% in dollars. And we have been able to guarantee this for the next 2 months. And every single 2 months, we'll essentially look at reviewing this rate. I mean, I would love to say we're going to guarantee this rate into the future, but we are able to essentially earn that yield demand that people have. And interestingly enough, this demand's actually shifted because the crypto markets decline now. People don't want to lock in their losses in Bitcoin and Ethereum and other. So what they're doing is they're essentially saying, hey, listen, we would love to borrow some US dollars and we'll pay a very high interest rate to do that. And we will then essentially collateralize the dollars that we're borrowing with Bitcoin or with Ethereum or one of the other cryptocurrencies. So we've now been able to sort of productize this and offer this to the market. And we've seen absolutely remarkable interest from institutional investors. I mean, remember, institutional investors weren't in the space 3 years ago. All of a sudden, they're hearing 12% yield on dollars. That's an annualized yield, of course. And they're going, well, where's the catch? Like, what have we missed?
Because I mean, a dollar savings account offers less than 2%. We're not talking about 12% in rands here, where some might say, oh, you could get 10% in an RSA retail savings bond. That's 12% in dollars. How do you do that?
Well, I suppose you've got to sort of have the know-how of moving and navigating in the DeFi space, because it is a complicated space, right? Unless you know exactly what you're doing, you're testing protocols, you've got to have dev knowledge, you've got to have software knowledge. You actually have to understand the smart contracts you're engaging with, because I mean, all those hacks that you hear about in the crypto market, they do occur, and you need to be able to sort of enter any product or create a product that's within the space, having thought about all of that and actually put the right risk mitigation measures in place. So we've been experimenting with this for the last, I mean, we've had a vault actually out there in the wild that customers could actually use. We just weren't really able to offer significant yields. I mean, we were offering about 5 to 6%, and it was a yield that sort of bounced about every single day. And now we've been able to actually lean into this and say, no, we can offer customers a 12% USD vault, definitely for the next 2 months. And we're hoping that, going forward, we'll be able to maintain that 12%, if not increase over time. I mean, there, of course, is the risk that the vault's percentage return does decrease, but the fact that you've bought into a stable coin, I mean, the third biggest stable coin in the world, USDC, or I suppose USDC and UST are now kind of competing with each other, but this is a huge project. I mean, Circle's stable coin project, USDC, is massive. It's hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're able to essentially offer a return in that. So it's almost equivalent to dollars. I mean, if I have to sort of look at the risks of the USD savings vaults, I mean, at the end of the day, really, if I cut to the honest truth, it is risk on Revix, because there's no regulation in South Africa just yet within the crypto space. There's no FCA, or I guess in South Africa it's FSCA or FSB sort of stamp of approval that we can offer our customers. All we can really say is, hey, listen, we've raised a decent amount of money, north of 150 million rand since launching Revix. We've got backing by, a couple really notable investors, one of which is a JSE specialty investment group. We've got we're still the only company in South Africa to do a proof of reserves audit.
Yeah.
Every single quarter, which still doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know how regulators haven't made this a requirement just yet, but you can see Mazars who come in and do a full proof of reserves audit. They verify the assets that we say we have on behalf of customers. That's the most crucial thing when it comes to the space. So, I mean, in terms of the risk of the yield, I mean, we are essentially a business, in a sense, sort of guaranteeing this yield. And I could say that, from a crypto standpoint, it's relatively low risk, certainly relative to investing in Bitcoin or, one of our crypto bundles.
Gee, and at a time like this, when I think it's return of your capital that is so important to investors, to get that 12% yield, certainly guaranteed, I think what you said is for 2 months, and hopefully longer into the future, seems like a dripping roast to me. When you look at the guarantee there, and I think, a lot of investors might say, yes, but if I invest in something like a government bond, I have a bit more of a guarantee. Why can't you offer a guarantee of return of that capital over a year, say?
I think if I had to guarantee it, the FSCA will come running after me, to be honest with you. I think they're going to say, no, you can't guarantee that. Technically, even if your bank guarantees your return, there is still a little bit of systematic risk. I mean, whenever you enter any sort of investment, there's a bit of currency risk. So let's say you were earning a Rand-based return with, let's say, your bank savings account, where you'd be earning maybe 5 to 6% currently in the South African context. You're taking Rand risk in doing that. And you've probably got very low then bank risk. But I mean, there's still a risk that exists there. With Revix, you're taking, I guess, very little dollar risk in a sense, because you're buying into USDC and you're owning USDC and you're receiving your interest in USDC. And you're taking a little bit more Revix risk. I mean, as a business, we want to be long-term greedy. We really are building our credibility. We're trying everything we possibly can to, grow in the South African market, to become a better known sort of institution and all the rest. And that takes time. I mean, the big banks spend a lot of money on just brand exercises for that exact reason. And that reality is the big risk here. I mean, we've never had an issue at Revix. We've never had a hack. We've never had any of that, touch wood. And we the reason that I think that's all occurred is we've taken a security first approach. I mean, ultimately, you see all the crypto platforms say, no, we've got bank grade protocols. We do regular audits. We do all these sorts of things. I mean, you can reach out to our customer support. You can ask us for information and confirmation that we've actually done these things. We can verify all of this, and we can provide information to you that hopefully provides the comfort that you would need if you're entering this sort of investment.
Yeah, it seems like the only barrier now is that it's that growing obviously the brand and the awareness of the products and building that trust. But that happens naturally over time. Very interesting to hear that the institutional money, which is often the smart money, it's got the resources to go and do extensive due diligence on counterparties. If they're confident enough to invest, then that is a big tick for me. You've always got a promotion for us, Sean. Do you have something around the savings vault this month?
I suppose the promotion itself is actually that savings vault. So that 12 years, 2 months. We're hoping to be able to extend it past that, but I guess there'll be a little bit of uncertainty. We need to make sure that we can actually lock in higher rates over extended periods of time. So you can go over to Revix, that's www.revix.com. You can learn more about these savings vaults. You can see it on our marketing site. You can then sign up. A mobile app is coming soon, I promise you. It's just around the corner. And yeah, then ultimately you can reach out to our customer support, learn more about the savings vaults. You don't have to start big. And I think that's one way that you can personally manage your risk, right? It doesn't matter if you're dealing with Revix or you're dealing with a bank. Get familiar with the product. I mean, start certainly with us. You can get started with as little, for the savings vaults, it's 150 Rand. It's really just $10 or 10 USDC. That's all you need to get started. You can get familiar with the platform, you can get comfortable, and then all of a sudden, when you're feeling more comfortable, you add to that investment suite, and maybe you add every single month. So we are long-term greedy, as I've said. We're not here to say, listen, put your life savings in this. That would be silly. Diversify, be smart, listen to yourself. Self-awareness is such an important part of investing. You need to kind of realize, hey, I'm a little bit stressed out about this investment when I'm going to bed. I'm overexposed to that. And that's what makes a really great investor as well.
Well, I think if you're looking for an investment product that's going to give you 12% in US dollars, then you're going to struggle to find anything like these savings vaults. And I think a great, segue into the psychology of investing as well. There, we have to be comfortable with our investments, but we also can't be straitjacketed and only earning kind of beta returns, because that's not really going to grow your wealth and build any legacy at the end of the day either. Sean, always a great pleasure chatting to you here on Business Talk and giving us the latest into the world of DeFi and cryptos here on Business Tech. Take care.
Thanks, Michael. Have a good one.